What's up? Welcome back to Nowstalgia. Dave here with a review of Nicki Minaj's fifth album, Pink Friday 2. Yes, Nicki back. First album since Queen 5 years ago in 2018. And if you think about the time between Nicki Minaj albums, the rap landscape, specifically the female MC rap landscape, has really changed. And I didn't really put this together until I started thinking about it, but back in 2018, obviously we had the Cardi B debut album, but apart from that, like Megan Thee Stallion was just starting to pick up steam with the Tina Snow mixtape. All these other female rappers we almost take for granted these days, they were nowhere to be found yet. And now we're at a time where it's never been a better time to be a female rapper. It is no longer a special occurrence when a female rapper stands out and impresses you and does good work. It is now just part of rap, and obviously that is great. And Nicki, of course, deserves so much credit for paving the way for this, because, of course, for the long time, for really the first 2/3 of Nicki Minaj's career, she was kind of the only game in town in terms of a new female rapper at the top, pushing things forward. And, Nicki, she's aligned herself with some of the new MCs like Ice Spice and Coi Leray and Sexy Red. She's not necessarily been a fan of other ones. There's been some beef, some Cold War beef, etc. We don't have to get into that right now. Nonetheless, Nicki has stayed around in between albums. I think a big part due to being a big collaborator. And lately, she's been one of the most successful people at kind of jumping on and following the trend of really big, flashy samples in your new songs. Of course, her collab with Ice Spice, Barbie World, flipping Aqua's Barbie Girl for the Barbie film soundtrack earlier this year. Big hit. Red Ruby to Sleaze, another good example of this. One of Nicki's singles from earlier this year, the Never Leave You sample, is very obvious there, of course. Another single, Super Freaky Girl, with the very obvious Rick James sample. Nicki's been doing this lately. And honestly, she's been one of the best at doing it. And Pink Friday 2 gives you more of that beyond these early singles. And I have to say, I didn't have a lot of necessarily hype for the distinction of it being Pink Friday 2. I was just excited for a new Nicki Minaj album after 5 years. We needed one. But Pink Friday 2 is hardly the first quote sequel to a landmark blockbuster rap album. This is very common in rap over the years with big artists. And even if it's really a sequel in name only, it's still kind of exciting. And I have to say, this is an album that it's too long for sure. We definitely could have cut some of these songs, but I think overall, it definitely met the hype for me. I think Pink Friday 2 was great. I think there's a lot of bangers on this. And more than anything, reminds you of just how talented Nicki Minaj is as a rapper. She's incredibly versatile, but when she really gets into the rapping bag, as she does a few times on Pink Friday 2, that's when I get really excited, because I love rapping-ass rapper Nicki Minaj, because she's up there with the best of them. But yeah, there's a lot to get into with this album. Yeah, so just as I'm going through it here, there's a lot of samples to highlight, and I think that there's a big criticism to have about Pink Friday 2, beyond just being a little too long. It's that Nicki's talented enough to not need to rely on such high-profile samples, and she doesn't need to be the one keeping this going. So overall, some of these samples are more effective than others. Nonetheless, just kind of going through the track list here, track 2 immediately got my attention, Barbie Dangerous, because this is a Notorious Thugs, Biggie Smalls flip by Nicki Minaj. Nicki, reworking the beat, using the flow, of course, a classic Biggie song, and it's fire. This is rapping rapper Nicki. This is what I want from her. This is awesome. It's not the first time, of course, that Nicki has taken from Biggie Smalls. Of course, Barbie Dreams was a big Biggie sample off Queen. She used a Biggie flow for Four Door Ventador back in the day as well. She's been doing this, but she's good enough to pull this off. Obviously, interpolating, sampling Biggie, do it at your own peril. You have to bring it to pull it off, but I think Nicki Minaj pulls it off. I was pretty impressed. One of my favorite songs on the album for sure. FTCU, Fuck the Club Up. Again, kind of obvious sample there. Beep Beep. I think this one also goes hard. Kind of like a pop trill beat specifically, shout out Ice Spice, but I think this one's pretty hard. Let Me Calm Down featuring Cole, I think that one's all right. But R&B featuring Lil Wayne and Tate Kobang, man, I thought that was really fire. I thought both features were really good. I like that song a lot. Needle, interesting. A Drake collab from Nicki. This had been hyped. It had been a while. It had been since before Queen that we got a new collab between the two of them. And, it's interesting because it's kind of like a tropical house song, a la like Drake's Passion Fruit, I guess you could say. Not my favorite of their collabs. Obviously, they have some classics from back in the day, like Bedrock and Moment for Life and Make Me Proud, etc. Like, it's hard to get back to those highs of 10 plus years ago. Nonetheless, it's nice. One of the best songs on the album, though, has to be Everybody featuring Lil Uzi Vert. The Move Your Feet sample, again, very obvious, but also just really catchy. It really grabs you. I liked it. I liked Cowgirl as well. Big Difference, I think, is hard. It's really fun switch up halfway through where the beat completely flips and Nicki does a new flow. Red Ruby to Sleaze, I mentioned, with the Never Leave You sample. Notable because that one has a pretty obvious Megan Thee Stallion diss on that song. This song is months old at this point, but I Don't Fuck With Horses since Christopher Reeves. Make of that what you will. Pink Friday Girls, another obvious sample here. Cyndi Lauper's Girls Just Want to Have Fun. And the beat's kind of like tweaked with some like Bay Area like 808s bouncing around there. I thought that was pretty fun. Of course, Super Freaky Girl with the Rick James sample. People know this one. My Life with the Heart of Glass sample. Nikki Hendrix with Future. I thought they were a really good match together. I think that one's a big highlight for sure. So yeah, I mean that's like, it's a 22 song, 70-minute album, but there's a good like dozen tracks or so that I think are real highlights, and it's just nice to get a lot of new music from Nicki just because it's been so long. And Nicki, there's so much noise around her. Obviously, she's not afraid to speak her own mind, and obviously the Barbs are not afraid to speak on things either. But it's good to like get new work because Nicki is good enough to warrant all this attention, and it's fun when we kind of get past the BS and actually get back to the music, because when we get back to the music with her, it pays off, pays dividends. I think it's a better album than Queen, for sure. And it honestly, not that it's much of a sequel, but it's worthy of the Pink Friday name because I think it's a pretty good record. So yeah, shout out Nicki Minaj, shout out Pink Friday too. Hopefully we don't have to wait another 5 years between albums. Interestingly, Nicki, she sounds, as good as ever for the most part. And, now she's 40, just turned 41 years old. She's kind of an OG at this point, but she sounds great. And I think she will help continue the trend of rappers going beyond their 40s and continuing to have fruitful careers. I see no reason not to believe that. But let me know, how did you feel about Nicki Minaj's Pink Friday 2? Let me know. And for more rap reviews, more music reviews, subscribe. And I'll see you next time.